It was a chilly winter morning in New York City, the kind when the sun hardly warms the icy pavements and the wind slashes through the congested streets. A small but impactful scene that would ultimately reverberate well beyond those cold hours was about to take place as commuters hurried ahead, wrapped in heavy coats and scarves. A 10-year-old child named Benjamin was walking home from school in a peaceful area of Lower Manhattan. For months, the route had been tainted by the constant brutality of a group of older bullies. Benjamin carried an unseen burden of loneliness and despair that no youngster should ever experience, as seen by his gloomy gaze and cautious gait. Benjamin was strolling past a small playground on that fateful morning where shouting and laughing ought to have filled the air with happiness. Rather, a group of larger children had formed around him, their harsh comments and derisive voices resonating off the brick walls of buildings in the vicinity. Together with sporadic shoves and sneers, their mockery had turned Benjamin's once bright spirit into a glimmer of terror. Unaware that fate had already started a dramatic intervention, the bullies persisted in their torment, feeling empowered by their anonymity and control over their helpless victim. Right then, Donald Trump, who is well known for his divisive public demeanor and extravagant appearance, was taking an impromptu walk through that exact area of the city. Trump walked with a deliberate gait that demanded attention while wearing his trademark red tie and a dark, expertly made overcoat. On that day, he was just a man strolling through the streets of New York, enmeshed in the everyday throb of metropolitan life. Despite being best known from television and the constant onslaught of media headlines, the upsetting scene in front of him caught his eye as he passed close to the playground. Trump hurried forward to the huddle of bullies without pausing. "Enough," he said in a voice that was at once authoritative and surprisingly sympathetic. A sudden, astonished stillness fell over the assembled audience as the word cut through the chilly air and the din of derisive laughing. The bullies paused and exchanged confused looks, taken aback by this intervention from a man they had only seen in exaggerated pictures. Trump's eyes met Benjamin's tear-streaked face at that tense moment, and he reached out to the shaking youngster. "You deserve to be safe, so come with me," he replied sweetly but forcefully. Benjamin paused before grabbing Trump's hand, and time seemed to slow down. A pivotal moment in the day's developing drama was the simple act of accepting help, which was so profound in its humanity. With their earlier nastiness fading like a puff of smoke in the chilly early air, the bullies, suddenly stunned, speechless by the unexpected act of generosity, started to scatter into the surrounding shadows. Witnesses, both locals and onlookers, watched in shock, with several grabbing their phones to record the bizarre spectacle. The footage of Trump's intervention went viral on social media in a matter of minutes. The incident gained national and worldwide attention as hashtags like #Stand Up for Benjamin and #Kindness in action started to trend. The incident was swiftly covered by media sources, and what started out as a little act of intervention became a potent representation of kindness and leadership. The sight of a former president intervening to save a defenseless youngster moved people all around the nation. It spoke to a common desire for empathy and cut across political lines. Local groups and community leaders took advantage of the video's widespread distribution to address bullying as a whole. There have been conversations at schools and community centers about how to make places safer for kids like Benjamin. Local officials started reviewing policies and launching anti-bullying efforts to better shield young people from the negative impacts of constant abuse. Long troubled by their son's quiet suffering, Benjamin's parents took comfort in the flood of condolences and letters from both friends and strangers. They expressed their appreciation that someone of Trump's caliber had paid attention, a move that, to them, represented optimism and a revitalized faith in the transformative power of compassion. Panels and talk shows examined the situation from all sides on national television. Normally arguing over rhetoric and policy, political pundits took a moment to recognize the indisputable significance of the day's events. Trump personally addressed the issue in one well-watched interview, using a calm and earnest tone. He said, "I saw a child in pain, and I couldn't watch him suffer." This is about doing the right thing, not about politics or media spectacle. The fact that every child deserves to feel safe and appreciated cuts across all boundaries. Viewers of all stripes found great resonance in his statements, which were delivered with an earnestness that shocked many of his detractors. Benjamin's story started to take shape in the days that followed, moving beyond that chilly New York morning. His journey from hopelessness to cautious optimism was featured in local television programs, and community projects were launched to help kids who had experienced similar hardships. Benjamin's story served as a catalyst for change through the organization of community events, counseling sessions, and mentoring initiatives. His narrative was utilized by educators and counselors in schools to start discussions on empathy, resiliency, and the value of sticking up for one another. Even Benjamin began to evolve. A tiny but increasing confidence started to replace the fear that had before followed him everywhere. He began to take part more actively in school and community events after feeling encouraged by the encouragement he got. His professors observed that the shy youngster they had known was slowly becoming a strong, quiet voice. After overcoming bullying, Benjamin went on to become a young supporter of inclusivity and kindness, a role that encouraged many of his peers to speak out against injustice. That day's effects extended much beyond the local neighborhood. Discussions and thoughts regarding the incident were still rife on social media, and people's perceptions of leadership started to change in favor of one that was more sympathetic. The tone of the story, which had previously been characterized by divisive political arguments and strong opinions, changed to one of compassion and a common will to defend the weak. Regardless of one's political stance on his career, Donald Trump's intervention became a symbol of how human kindness overcame division. The story sparked discussions in cities and villages all around the world as it spread internationally. People in neighborhoods far from the busy streets of New York found a mirror for their own hardships and a lesson that one act of compassion might truly transform lives in Benjamin's story. Academic talks, social worker interviews, and international news segments all cited the incident as an example of how effective leadership may take unexpected forms. The picture of Trump reaching down to soothe a scared child came to symbolize a universal reality that even the most powerful people can be really caring. The incident was honored in a number of ways in the weeks that followed. Local theater shows, community art initiatives, and public murals all honored the day a past president intervened to protect a child who had been mistreated. The dread in Benjamin's eyes, the unwavering compassion in Trump's face, and the collective sigh of relief from bystanders who had seen a ray of hope in an otherwise cruel world were all represented in the visceral and potent artwork. In addition to honoring the deed itself, these imaginative tributes acted as a spark for continuing conversations about bullying, social responsibility, and the value of empathy in fostering stronger communities. A lasting reminder of the transformation that may happen when we refuse to overlook the pain of others, the story of that winter morning became more than simply a news item for many. The episode became a point of reference for community leaders, educators, and legislators as they push for stronger anti-bullying policies and mental health support initiatives. Local efforts to make the environment safer and more welcoming for all youngsters were intertwined with the legacy of that day. Benjamin's life kept becoming better over time. He was able to become a young voice for change because to the support he got, which also assisted in healing the wounds caused by bullying. In order to inspire his peers to unite against cruelty, he spoke at neighborhood gatherings, took part in school campaigns, and told his tale to the local media. His journey from an isolated, fearful boy to a strong young activist moved many people and sparked similar actions in communities all around the nation. Many people who thought back on that day became convinced that it was a watershed, a time when politics and human nature merged to create a story of true compassion. A small boy and consequently innumerable others who had suffered in silence had found unexpected hope in Donald Trump's intervention, a man notorious for controversy and divisive views. It served as a sobering reminder that tiny brave deeds that support the weak are what truly characterize true leadership, not lofty speeches or overarching ideas. The memory of that remarkable intervention persisted even after the public's focus had turned to new headlines and developing stories. It served as a springboard for conversations on how our society values and defends the defenseless, and as evidence that all people, regardless of size or apparent insignificance, are worthy of respect and consideration. That chilly winter morning's legacy has persisted in motivating projects, influencing public policy, and inspiring people from all walks of life to act kindly despite hardship. That day on the streets of New York City, when Donald Trump rescued a child who had been tormented and, in doing so, touched the emotions of a whole neighborhood, was essentially a stirring call to action. It exhorted everyone to put aside their differences, speak up against injustice, and keep in mind that one act of kindness can have a profound impact on the globe. This timeless lesson, which was caught in a brave and vulnerable moment, is still evidence of the transforming power of empathy and the unwavering hope that exists in everyone's heart.